up, young man. Come now. We want to say it's good to be here this beautiful night. We want to put your best voices together. So the treasury broke and they say that recess and jamming. So to foreign countries, yes, we start migrating. We lose faith in we country, they say we gone down the drain. They say no more, but we see happy times again. But the will to recover in my people, I have confidence. Although many may seem to feel that I talking nonsense, but the majority of us decide we're not going to run, because now is the time to show me patriotism. Why our country facing is darkest hour, and our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, one little thing I want we all sing together. What?
We can make it if we try.
What?
Just a little harder.
If we just give one more try, life would be much sweeter.
Life would be more sweeter.
Love your God. From the time Trini analyzed just what was the problem. Yes, we start making very positive moves to solve them. We fired the old center manager, they had working. And in that new branch room, we went and we prayed. And if the goods we require, the new managers not supplying. When election time come back from the new ones we bring in. But if there's one thing about my people, I could guarantee that they would never ever put party before country. Look,
Our country facing
it's darkest hour, and our people need us to live more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, one little thing I want we all remember. What?
we can make it if we try. Just a little harder.
Oh, if we just give one more try, life would be much
Sweeter.
When the treasury got full and happy time, some was enjoying. They said move back and laugh until poor people was living. But now the treasury broke and the country come back to square one. Poor people remain on the same old ghetto in John. But look at the economy return today on some footing. It's the same for people 10 days and more that they're taking. And without social unrest for people paying the price. Because they know for the country nothing so much to sacrifice. Why our country facing it's darkest hour, and our people need us to live more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, one little thing I want we all sing together. Sing for me.
We can make it if we try. Just a little harder.
If we just give one more try, life would be much sweeter. Jump the music now. This one for you. Anytime that you hear that your country facing a crisis, as loyal citizens, it's our duty to stay and assist. For we know to ourselves there could never become a day when our debts to we country we can repeat. So who want to go could go, I have no objection. But while outside I want you to have one consideration. That your country of good is in its worst day in history. And we must do what we can, regardless where we may be. Why our country facing its darkest hour, and our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, one little thing I want we all sing together. Right. Because they do for the country nothing so much to sacrifice. Why our country facing its darkest hour, and our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, one little thing I want we all sing together. Sing for me.
We can make it if we try. Just a little harder.
If we just give one more try, life would be much sweeter. Jump the music now. This one for you. Anytime that you hear that your country facing a crisis, as loyal citizens, it's our duty to stay and assist. For we know to ourselves there could never become a day when our debts to we country we can repeat. So who want to go could go, I have no objection. But while outside I want you to have one consideration. That your country of good is in its worst day in history. And we must do what we can, regardless where we may be. Why our country facing its darkest hour, and our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, one little thing I want we all sing together. What?
We can make it if we try.
Sincerely believe that.
Just a little harder.
What?
If we just give one more try.
Life would be much sweeter. One more for them. One more time. What? We
can make it if we try.
Sincerely believe
Just a little
that if we put our hands together, we could really do it for our
just
country,
give one more
regardless of home or abroad. Love you.
try.
We can make it if we try. Dr. Leroy Calise, the black man, the black stallion, a little bit of patriotism there. We can make it if we try. We had the old set of manager, we moved them and we put in some new one. But if the new manager is not producing the goods, it's a new set we have to bring in. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. The Black Stallion. We can make it if we try. Our country facing its darkest moment, and we must not abandon our country. And it's one thing I know about my people is that they would never put party before country. Patriotism there from the Black Stallion, Good evening. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening to all our listeners in Guyana, whichever region you're in, whichever part of the country, regions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And of course, region 11. And region 11, of course, the diaspora. People in the diaspora, whether the diaspora is in our Caribbean, which I don't like to call the diaspora because we are a Caribbean family. North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, wherever you're joining us from, a pleasant good evening to you. It's a quiet evening on the east coast of Demerara, where I am to be specific in Buxton. Quiet Thursday evening, but the rumblings of the politics are not as quiet as the atmosphere. Good evening to Berbice, and by Berbice I mean from Quarantine, come right through to West Coast Berbice, Maikoni, Mahaika, coming through to the East Coast of Demerara, Georgetown, East Bank, West Side, all the way to the Essequibo Coast and Islands, up to the Pomeroon. Good evening to all of you coastlanders and our people in the hinterland. Region 1, Region 7, Region 8, 9, and parts of Region 10 we can call the hinterland. Good evening, Kokwani. Good evening to the people, of course, in Linden. And good evening to all of you and welcome to Politics 101. Good evening to the people of Mocha, Arcadia. Welcome to Politics 101. All of you who are joining us, whether it is in French Guyana, Suriname, Venezuela, Brazil, wherever you are, welcome to Politics 101. Another day on the campaign trail. It's election season, and everyone is tuned in. Lots of events occurring, and lots of tongues are wagging, people trying to make sense. And as I have said here before, it's difficult to make sense of politics in real time. To understand what's happening in real time, you have to be guided by history. And history can give you a peep into explaining the present, but it's very difficult to try to explain the present in the present and by the present. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. I was watching a program earlier this evening, and well-meaning, very well-meaning commentators, and they're over the top with what they're saying is multiracial crowds at the rallies by the Mohammeds and by the PPP. And I shook my head because what multiracial crowds? What they want to say is that you are looking at PPP rallies and seeing more African Guyanese than would normally be at a PPP rally. And you're looking at WIN rallies and you're seeing a lot of Black youth. That's not multiracialism, because when you look at the APNU rallies, you're not seeing East Indians. If you saw lots of Indians, as many Indians at APNU rally as you would see Blacks at PPP or thing, then you can begin to talk about, a creeping multiracialism. But you see people from one ethnic group at the public events of two parties that are not grounded in the African Guyanese community, and people are celebrating that as some multiracialism. It's not dishonesty. It's a lack of understanding of political realities. I was on a program last night. I programmed Dr. Terence Blackman, starting a series of discussions, and he had me as his first guest last night. And some people have reached out to me to say they thought it was a good program. I'm going to replay it here on Politics 101 in the very near future. And so that's why you did not see me last night. It's good to do those programs, to have people interview me rather than me making commentaries or interviewing other people. And it's good to be away from the cut and thrust of the campaign and to reflect a little bit on our politics, and try to make sense of it. As I said, it's difficult to make sense of political and social phenomena in real time. In real time. Good evening to all of you who are joining us. Good evening to our cousin Princess. It's good to see you today. And good evening to all of you who've been dropping by to see me. And it's good to catch up and to be able to answer some questions. It's part of the political campaign. It's not just the public meetings, but answering people's questions about the political process, the electoral process. And I have been doing quite a lot of that. Sometimes it's difficult to move during the day because one is constantly having to respond to the queries and the questions. It's not just people from Buxton. People from outside of the village who have been coming by to see me. And some of them don't want much. One man from BV said he came by to see me yesterday. He said just to meet me in person. He came by, he didn't know where I was living. He just knew from the program that I was in Buxton and he wanted to see me, and they directed him. He came to see him. He said he wanted to see me in person, but he wanted to tell me that he shuddered to think that had we, people like myself and Kedaki and Paul Slow, Mark Benchop, Rickford Burke, Sherrod Duncan, those of us who do the social media programs, that had we not been doing the kind of work that we had been doing for the last 5 years, that he shuddered to think where we would have been today. He also came to tell me that his vote is for me and the WPA. He's voting APNU, but the ballot box is not going to be able to tell how many votes are in there. I'm quoting him. How many votes are in there for David Hines and the WPA? He wanted to come and to cast his vote early. As he put it, he came to cast an early vote to say his vote is for me and for the WPA. When he puts that vote in the APNU box, it's for myself and the WPA. He took all of 7 minutes of my time and he was gone. He made his contribution to the WPA campaign fund and he was gone. And so there's that work that is going on behind the scenes on a daily basis, and it's important work. So yes, last night I was on that program, and some of you were on the program. And I got a chance to talk about some things that I would not normally get a chance to talk about here on the program. But your vote is sacred. I ended that program last night by saying that because the interviewer asked me to talk about what keeps me going, what disappoints me, and my message to young people. And I said what keeps me going is when I see ordinary people not giving up. Not giving up. Ordinary people not giving up. Cousin Princess, like I said, came to see me today. She's 86 years old. And she is determined to make her vote count. And the title of tonight's program is partly out of my conversation with her today, your vote is sacred. And when I see an 86-year-old woman determined, I've known her since I was a child, and she was an activist, as she reminded me today. And then when I see her, partly sad where our country has gone, but partly elated to be part of this moment where she thinks she can make a fundamental change. that keeps me going. When I see women fighting against the odds and waking up in the morning, early in the morning, and going to work and putting out their little thing to sell what they have to sell and to try. I know they're not taking home much when they close up that tree or and go home in the evening. They're not taking home plenty money. But the determination to survive is what keeps me going. What keeps me going, you know? At this stage in my life, and I have given 50 years almost of public service from the time I was a youth man to now. And perhaps under normal circumstances, one could say, but let me kick back now. And there are so many books that I have to read. I have to read over. So many things I want to write. And just do that and chill. But when I look at those people, when I look at you here in your hundreds every night, coming to this program and going from here to Sherrod Duncan and to Mark Bishop in the morning early, and then the midday you go on to, and you just do it. I have to say, wait. Let those books wait. Let those things that I want to write wait. There is much more to be done to make right. The promise of emancipation, as I said, at emancipation, we were promised freedom. We promised ourselves freedom. At independence, we updated that promise. That promise we made to ourselves, the promise of freedom. And now in the age of oil, we see that freedom on the horizon. But as we stretch our hands, we're realizing that we are not touching it, but we are determined to get it. And so that keeps me going. I'm a little bit disappointed, perhaps more than a little bit disappointed. Because whatever one could say about Guyanese politics, and there are a lot of negatives. There is a lot of negatives that one can talk about the Guyanese political process. But my experience of Guyanese politics is that the negatives fade when it comes to the positives of our politics. That perhaps the quality of political engagement, political conversation in this country is second to none in our English-speaking Caribbean. But alas, over the last couple of decades, that politics of vision, that politics of hope, that politics of high morality has given way to a very cheap politics. You know, in the old days when someone crossed the floor, it was big news, because people didn't cross the floor easily. Today, people are crossing the floor, as they say, like flies. It's no longer news. It looks as though it's like people are doing business, you know, buying and selling, you know. And it's unfortunate, and I don't want to disparage anybody, because people quick to tell you that is somebody right to do this and somebody right to that. Of course, it's people right of association to belong to whichever party they want to belong. And I don't interfere with that right. I hold that right very dearly. And so one is not talking about people's right of association, and that's not my concern. It is the sum total of the politics, and you know, and people read into that perhaps correctly. And that is why I said one of the peculiarities of this election is the way in which the vote has been so cheapened that people come to buy, and that people are either considering selling or they sell on terms. Now there's always been vote buying and vote selling, in the sense that people come and they said, I will give you this. And, in the old days, they talk about sardine and corned beef politics. The politicians used to come around and share salt beef and corned beef and sardine in exchange for people's votes. Imagine that. And that was scandalous in those days, showing the corned beef and sardine and so on. So there had always been an attempt to get people to exchange their vote for material things. But now, today, I think it has become extremely vulgar. It's no longer tacit. It's open, It's a kind of vulgarity. This thing of, I mean, if I were a minister and I was responsible for giving out small contracts to people, first of all, I would make it very clear that the contracts that I'll be giving up would not be handouts, would be structured. People, go through the procedure and so forth. And I'll be making it very clear to those people, you owe me nothing for this contract. You owe the party that I belong to nothing for this contract. You get a contract for $5 million or how many $1 million. This is what your foreparents fought for on that slave plantation and were not paid for. This is reparations. This is what your foreparents fought, worked for on the sugar estates as indentured laborers, and they were partly paid. And what you're getting here is the part that they were not paid. This is what your foreparents, they were driven into the hinterland by the marauding colonialists. Your land was taken away, and so what you get here, reparations. I would be saying that to the people. You don't owe me nothing. You don't owe my party anything. What you are getting here, this contract, is reparations for what your poor parents did not get for working from sunup past sundown, and even early than sunup. If you want to vote at election time, that's your personal business. If anything to do. But no. Ministers come and they give people these little contracts and they tell them plain what they have to do. And if they don't tell them in clear terms, the people within the context of our politics feel that they have to do it. And so we have an election where vote buying is open. It's open. And if you have buyers, you're going to have sellers. It's open. And I think it's a dilution of our politics. I think is a mockery of democracy. It's a mockery of free and fair election. And it's a violation of people's dignity. A violation of people's dignity. Because one didn't born and encounter a vote as something that you take for granted. The vote had to be fought for. The right to universal adult suffrage only came in 1950. After more than 300 years of struggle. You don't fight that long for something and believe that it's something that you just give away like that. A vote is a very, very sacred thing. Thousands of lives were lost. People were beaten. The right to vote only came. The right to universal adult suffrage, that is, each adult got the right to vote in 1950, and for the first time in 1953, our people were able to exercise that vote, that right to vote. And we have always had to fight for that right to vote. In 2025, those who are remanded to prison a young lady defend herself and perhaps knock she boyfriend, and you go to court and they put you on a $40,000 bail and she can't afford it. She's in prison on remand. She cannot vote. Her right to vote is taken away. So the right to vote is still being fought for as we speak. As we speak. If you work for the APNU on election day and you work outside of your district and there's nobody to relieve you so that you can go back to your district to vote, you lose that right. The right to vote is sacred. When you vote, you are voting and you are saying this thing, this X that I'm marking here, I am turning over to you a lot of my rights. I am saying that I am voting you into office to do for me what I cannot do for myself. I can do some things for myself. I can cook for myself. I can clean for myself. But if somebody bullies me, I'm not able to defend myself. I am giving you the right to protect me. We are turning over the power to a group of people called the government and the state to do for me, to do for you what you can do for yourself. As the old saying goes, it was Hobbes, British philosopher. He said, mankind in its natural state, his life will be short, nasty, and brutish. And so therefore, this thing called the government was created to mediate the conflicts between and among mankind. We give with that vote, we are giving the police the power to protect me, to protect us. The vote is a sacred thing. With that vote, we are giving the government and the police We are giving the government and the army the right to protect us against incursions from foreign forces. With that vote, we are giving the government the power to set up institutions, the schools, to ensure that our children are properly educated. With that vote, we are giving the government the power. We are giving a few people the power to tell me whether I tell you whether you can set up a stand in front of your yard to sell. Tremendous power. One of our constituents called me a few nights ago to say she's selling, in front of a Chinese place. And the Chinese telling she can't sell in front of there. And then the powers that be telling she that she can't sell the same thing what the Chinese selling. And she said, she's asking the question, if a Chinese can come and have the right to sell what she's selling, why she don't have the right to sell what the Chinese selling? And she's correct. I give that example to say when you vote, you are giving people the power to determine whether foreigners can come and have more rights in your country than you. The vote is a very, very serious thing. And I do not believe that we are doing ourselves a favor as a people, as a country, as a culture, when we don't recognize that when we exchange the vote, for the illusion of bread, that we are dishonoring our ancestors, dishonoring our children. Bread without justice is stale bread. Bread without justice will not fill your belly. If you are exchanging your justice for a piece of bread, you are making a grave mistake. What we need is bread and justice. Professor Clive Thomas in the 1970s. I grew up on that little booklet he wrote called Bread and Justice. We need bread and justice. We cannot trade our justice for a piece of bread. We need bread and justice. And I'm afraid that we are risking people encouraging a culture where we trade justice for a little piece of bread. The Christians, no, man shall not live by bread alone. The implication there is that man must live by bread and justice. I hear some of our young people, we got to eat the bread. How can I tell you no? You have to eat the bread. Martin Carter said, the mouth is muzzled by the food it eats. When you put that bread in your mouth and you now can't open that mouth and say, this is wrong, you are muzzled by the food you eat. So many people, so many of our people are gripped by fear. Gripped by fear I'm working for the government. I can't say this. I'm working for the government. I can't do this. I'm working for the government. I can't attend this. I'm working for the government. I can't talk to these people. That is not the definition of humanity. You must be able to work for the government of this country and support whichever party you want to support openly. Anything short of that, we're back to slavery, mental slavery, political slavery. The vote is sacred. The vote is sacred. There is a problem in our country. It's not a problem that we can solve at election time. But when you see people of one ethnic group, the youth of one ethnic group, under duress, putting on jerseys and associating with parties that they would not normally associate with. And you don't see a reciprocal movement on the part of the opposite ethnic group. And you call that multiracialism. You are dishonest. You are complicit in the pimping. Because that's what those parties are doing. They're pimping a particular ethnic group. They are taking advantage of structural problems in a particular group. Now, I have to say, there are structural problems among East Indians. East Indians are as impoverished, the poor, the East Indian poor. They are as depressed as the African poor, the Amerindian poor. They are. But APNU is not taking advantage of the Indian poor. They're not taking advantage of the circumstances of Indian poor. And they should not. They ought not to. They should not do it. I am glad they are not doing it. But then you have the other parties who are taking advantage of the circumstances of the African poor. And they ought not to do it. They should not be doing it, but they are doing it. And people are looking at that and call that multiracialism. Those people will have to pay at some point for misleading themselves and misleading the nation. This election will pass, you know. And when the elections are over, we are back to the very problems that are there before this election. The point I'm making is that this too will pass. Vote buying and vote selling happens at election time. But when the elections are over and people realize that I've sold my vote, I was forced to sell my vote, I was bullied to sell my vote, and here I am, the elections are over, my vote is gone, and my own vote now is going to be used to buy bullets to kill my son. My own vote will be translated into bulldozers that will bulldoze my home. That extrajudicial killing among the African youth will continue, even though some African youth give their votes to certain organizations. They will realize that when it's all over, when the elections are over, the bullets will still be going off, bang, 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 bang. And then we will have to explain, but there is a relationship between that vote that you give and that bullet that is chasing you through the streets and the alleyways of Georgetown or Buxton or wherever you reside. We are not going to solve problems at election. Maybe these things will just have to, as what do we say? Sometimes things have to work themselves out. It's not too late to hear the cry, hear the plea. Yes, I want every vote for the APNU, because the APNU is the political entity with which I'm associated. But also because I believe, not that I believe, young black men are not going to be shot by rogue police under the APNU. But I think the chances of that are far, far less than them being shot, by a government of other parties. It is not that I believe that public servants will be given ideal wages, but the chances of public servants getting a better wage package under the APNU is much more than they're going to get from other parties. Other parties have given, the PPP has given public servants 7% and 8%. The APNU is saying that we will give 35%. And they're not picking a figure off their heads. They've done the maths, they've done the economics. And even if they renege and give 30, it will be 28% more than what the PPP is giving. What are we talking about? The APNU is less likely to take advantage of black people and Amerindian people and African people, because there are people like myself, hopefully, who will be in that government, and we would be ensuring from the inside, not the outside. I am not going to sit in any government that gives itself a 50% pay raise. I'm not going to sit in any government that is going to kick down the door and break down the houses of Moko people. I am not going to sit in any government that is going to be shooting African people willy-nilly. Yes, there will be voices in an APNU government from the inside. There will not be voices in the PPP government from the inside. They're not doing it now, and they will not do it then. We are doing it now. Some APNU people are skeptical about me. Some are nervous about me. And the reason they're nervous, and they complain every day to Norton for me. And the reason is because I am fair. I have absolutely no problem if we are wrong to say we are wrong. I don't care if I lose 10 votes or 20 votes or 100 votes. I'm going to say it's wrong. So we are demonstrating outside of government that we stand for justice. We stand for self-criticism. And that is why you know that when we get in government, we're going to do it because we're doing it when we're out of government. Who is going to stand up? Who is standing up in the PPP government to say to the PPP, do not encourage a small group of rogue police to be killing black children? Dr. Annie Jeffrey said when they wanted to ban Mashramani, Clinton Collymore, a black member of the PPP government who didn't talk very much, but on that day when they were debating, he simply said, well, you all don't leave them black people thing alone. And that was mild. He didn't do very much there. He didn't, but that was mild. But that was significant. Where are the Clinton Collymores in the PPP government to say, you all stop shooting them black people children? You all stop going in and give them black people $2 million and making them feel that you're giving them $200 million. Where are the black voices? Instead, it is the black people who are coming, those black ministers who are coming into black areas and giving our children $2-3 million and coercing them to put on red jerseys, inflicting wounds on their dignity, making them feel that they're giving them some big favor. There are no voices in the PPP. There are not even voices in the PPP standing up for the Indian poor. Yes, they give the Indian poor a little bit more crumbs. But when it comes to their self-interest and the class interest of the Indian people, their political interest takes precedent over Indian people class interest. But I don't profess to stand there tonight and to speak for the Indian poor. The Indian poor, they have Indian leaders who can speak for them. But that doesn't mean that I don't know of the pain that they go through. Giving your vote to the APNU is not saying that the APNU is without fault. Without oil, the APNU managed to keep the government going and managed to distribute little resources. You all are telling us that what the APNU was guilty of is that none of those policies had your name, Black Youth, mark on it. None of those policies had your name, Black African, mark on it. That's the criticism. It's not that you all are telling us we didn't do anything for you all. You all know well that we did. The APNU government did things that you all benefited from. Whatever little wages they gave, all of you all benefited from. They give money to Ipadaji. Ipadaji was able to do night schools, do some training in business, etc., with that $100 million subvention. But those programs were not universal enough to reach down to the black poor in Albistown and Tiger Bay and Friendship back damn side and Buxton back damn side and Golden Grove back damn side. That's the point you all are making. And we have to say, we didn't know at the time. Some of us knew, but we weren't the ones who were in the seat of power. But those who were in the seat of power have to say, we didn't know that people actually had the consciousness. And the hypocrisy is that if the APNU government had done that, the PPP would have called them racist. So it's partly fear of being called racist, the fear that, no, not the fear, the idea that government must be colorblind in a society that is color conscious. Partly that led for us not doing a policy or two with your name mark on it. It is why the older people and even see younger people scream for Burnham. National Service had black people name mark on it. It benefited people from other ethnic groups. But a lot of black youth were taken out of the ghettos and given a second lease on life, and today they are grateful for it. Most of them are adults now, and they tell you what National Service, it was a program. It didn't say black, but it had black mark on it. In the same way, all those holidays, Hindu and Muslim holidays, they had Indian mark on them. All that Burnham did for rice and sugar had Indian name mark on it. And what our people are telling us is APNU, when they were in government for 5 years, did not leave something with the black youth name mark on it. That's what they're telling us. And they don't have to be 100% accurate. If they perceive it, we have to address it. And we have to have the courage. I know the people, when I said I apologize, the headline in the state media would not be that Dr. Hines apologized to his supporters. It would be Dr. Hines admit. You gotta live with that. The PPP gotta do propaganda. So they will say, Dr. Hines admit. Our media should put it on their front page. Dr. Hines, in a historic move, apologize to the APNU base. Our media, the media sympathetic to us, didn't do it. You didn't see anybody cut out that part of my speech and play it on social media over and over again. As I said, if we knew what we knew, we could have given public servants, each public servant, in lieu of the wages that we couldn't pay them because we didn't have the money to give public servants all that they were asking for. I take that. I take that. But if we knew what we knew now, we could have said each public servant gets a house lot. Gets a house lot. We didn't need money to make that happen. And those public servants, 280-something thousand of them, I think is the number, who have house and house lot already, they would have been able to give a picnic and the grand picnic. And the picnic and grand picnic today would not have been able to say with the same conviction that we did nothing for them. We didn't know it at the time. And our politics didn't allow us to do that because we are constantly in fear of being called racist. Jack Yo says it every day. Every time they do a press conference, our base is going nowhere. He said today at this press conference, he said, we are not allowing Mohammed to go in among our people. APNU is allowing that. But we are mortally fearful of anything that will make them call us racist. Young lady in the APNU said to me with conviction the other night, she said, you know why I like you? You just said the things that I can't say. I can't say, but you say it for me, and that is leadership. Leadership is not only to say what your people would want you to say, is to say things that your people cannot say. It's politics. When Jack Dio behaved like a bad boy, you think it's by any accident? He's sending a signal to his supporters. Gone are the days. Gone are the days when it was felt that Indian people are meek and Indian people are weak. Jack Dio is being a bad man with a purpose. He's making a cultural statement. He's saying to Indians, gone are the days when Indian people couldn't talk up in this country. I talking up. And with him talking up, Indian boys are talking up, as you all would say in Guyana, as we would say here. When an African talk up, our own African elites are calling us extremists and radical and all kind of nonsensical names, and not recognizing the sociological implications of talking up. In the 1950s, the UC Guyana, then Sidney King said to the white people, this confounded nonsense must stop. He actually said, I will not stand for this confounded nonsense. And the folklore make it this confounded nonsense. You know why that phrase has lived on 70 years later? Because he was talking back to white people. Today, when Ogunse or Vincent Alexander or whoever, you know, Rickford Burke, when we talk back, our own people are trying to silence us. When Jack Dio and Nandlal, they talk up, Nandlal actually say, you're chatri. The vote is sacred. The PPP would look at the program like this, and they're all watching here tonight. And I would say, so it is said, I'll give you an example of what they do. I may say, it is said that black people are hanging their mouth where soup is dropping. Let me explain what that means. They will go and they will slice out. Black people are hanging their mouth where soup dropping. And they will put a caption, Dr. Hines insults black people. And they put that out on Facebook. And our people would read, would listen to that and call and complain for me. Look, Dr. Hines cussing black people. The PPP skillfully goes in, and they're very good at that thing. They will cut out. They will cut out the little part. And our people don't listen to our propaganda, especially the IT-tighty ones. They don't have time to listen to what our people are saying. They don't have time to listen to this show. They go and they listen PPP propaganda and then complain for me. Look, Dr. Hines cussing these people. Why Dr. Hines doing that? And the PPP understands. Or the PPP would put a headline. Dr. Hines insults African people. And then in the story, they'll quote me not insulting people. But the headline, and they know that people would read the headline. The people read the headline and they run with it. Look at that one, Freddie Kissoon. For years, 2 years, 3 years, going on to 3 years, he repeated a story that Geeta Chandan after that Rhonda Lane made derogatory statements against Indian people, Geeta Chandan signed a statement condemning Rhonda. David Hines called Geeta Chandan a slave catcher. Never happened. Never happened. Geeta Chandan was on his program the other night, and he's telling her, "Oh, your disenchantment did not start when that lady, WPA lady, first of all, Rhonda is not a WPA member. But anyhow, that's besides the point. That WPA lady made derogatory statement about Indian people, and you condemn her, and David Hines called you slave catcher?" And Geeta said, "No, I never signed the statement commenting on Rhonda. Some of my colleagues did, but I didn't. David Hines called me a slave catcher on my statement about Ogunsi." And Freddie and his co-hosts sat down there. They didn't have the courage to say, "David, apologies. I really thought you had called her a slave catcher because of what Rhonda said. You see, if I sue him now for creating a story, putting me in the story, damaging my reputation as a result of that, if I sue him now, and he frightened lawsuit, if I sue him now, then people gonna see a thin skin." I call the Geeta slave catcher because Takumo Ogunse, my comrade, my brother, made some statements. The matter is before the court, so I don't want to repeat the statement. And so he made a statement. And Geeta condemned him for making the statement. The PPP police shackled Ogunse like they shackled slaves. And I said that Sister Geeta is on our side. You're playing in our team. And you see the shackle a black man like a slave. And you are condemning that black man. You are a slave catcher. I'm not a dunce. I use the term slave catcher within a particular context. And when I met Geeta on a picket in front of the office of the president, I pulled her aside. I said, "Geeta, you know I love you as a person. I have the greatest of respect for you. But the context in which you made that statement, I had to use the imagery of a slave catcher to deter others from doing it." So the PPP is very skillful. They have it out for people like me. That everything I say, they turn it into a racial statement or a racist statement. That's their agenda. And I have to live with that because this is Guyana. These are the issues I'm confronting. And I expect the PPP to do that. What I don't expect is for our people to fall for PPP propaganda and to use that propaganda to say that I am a liability to our campaign, which is what some of them have been doing. They don't cut out the positive things that I say and circulate it. A few people do it. A few WP-oriented people do that. My friend Yuri Westmans, he does that. He would cut out some what he calls profound things that I say and circulate it. We don't do that on we side. The PPP stitch words together, stitch sentences together, and make it look as though I make statements that I never made, and our people lap it up. We have some faults on our side that are historical. I don't care who go to which party or thing, but you know, black people invest in us that have risen to the top. They invest in us. They invest in us. They invest in me. They invest on Norton. They invest in Nigel Hughes. They invest in Amanza. They invest in Jermaine and all those who have decided that they will go to the PPP or go wherever they go. Black people have invested in us. Guyana's invested in us, but before Guyana invested in us, black people in our communities invested in us. Jagdeo could not get where he got if the people, the Indian community in unity didn't invest in him. If the PYO didn't invest in him. If the PPP didn't invest in him. Buxton invest in me. The WPA invest in me. Black people invest in me. And so when I'm making big political decisions, I have to look back and say, how would this play out among Buxtonians? How would it play out among WPA people? How would it play out among African Guyanese? I ask myself those questions whenever I'm making big political decisions. And people are making big political decisions with no care for how it will impact the people who invest in them. That's my concern. That's my concern. I don't care. People can go and join whoever they want to join, man. That don't matter to me. But when people invest in us, as all people say, the cries of our people will be on us. I'm not saying, look, there's something called conscience decision. And then there is what we call constituency decision. I am making this decision based on what I think my constituency want, not based on what my conscience tells me. So you have to balance your conscience with what your constituency wants. If my constituency wants violence and my conscience is against violence, I go with my conscience. But if my constituency wants justice and my conscience tells me I got to get revenge, I go with my constituency. And we hear this, people have a right. People have a right to belong wherever they want to belong. Just as I have a right to go in a cinema and say, fire, fire. Rights are not absolute. I have a right to my conscience. I have a right to make decisions that benefit me and my family. But if I put myself forward as a public person, I also have a right to consider the public that invested in me and which I represent. And I find that today's politics is so cheap, man. It's so cheap. And I don't blame the individuals, because those individuals come from a society. They come from a society. And this society is breeding a kind of cheap politics. I blame the PPP because for the last 3 decades, they have injected that kind of politics in our society. That's cheapened politics. And the rest of us have become victims of it. People always cross the floor. That is not a new thing. When Ranjit Chandy Singh and them crossed the floor to the PNC, they said, we crossed the floor because we are socialists, we are Marxists. We believe that the PPP is in the right ideological, the PNC, sorry, is in the right. They cross for ideological reasons. Somebody tell me foolishness, but I cross a principle and I cross because Dr. Ali is a good man. And they got a lot of people in the PPP who I think are good. That's not a reason for me going trying. Good people can make decisions that I don't agree with. So because Dr. Ali is good, and you are not looking at Dr. Ali's policies, you're not looking and see, oh, under Dr. Ali's government for the last 5 years, so many Africans have been killed by rogue police. You're not looking that Dr. Ali's government is covering up the death of a child, a little girl, a poor little girl. You are not looking that under Dr. Ali, homes of people have been broken down to facilitate rich people taking up land. And you are telling me about, people are telling me about principle. What principle? Just come out plain and say, look, I'm looking after me. You could not be making those decisions based on what your constituency. None of those people who have so-called crossed the floor can say to me that their constituency tell them to cross the floor. So they have to be looking out for themselves. But that's their business. But what I'm saying, it cheapens our politics. And I mourn. I mourn. Sisters and brothers, the vote is sacred. Please talk. Please continue to talk. And to see how many of our mainly younger, poor young brothers and sisters, our children, that we can help them to see a larger picture. As I said, don't all on them, don't cuss them, reason with them. We may be able to pull back. This is not just about pulling back votes. This is more than just pulling back votes. Because when the elections are over and the bullets continue to ring in the ghetto, and poverty continues to stalk our young men, they will turn to us. Mommy, Daddy, why you didn't tell me what I was doing was wrong? Daddy, why you didn't tell me what I was doing was wrong? Big man, you know I was making myself a fool. Why you didn't tell me? That is what they're going to tell us. Mark my word. I've seen it before. That is what they're going to ask us. They're going to say, big man, you know that we be making a mistake. Why you all didn't tell we? That is what they're going to ask us. Try to see what we can do today. Don't panic. I'm not panicking because I see black people in PPP rally or black people in Team Mohammed. I'm not panicking. That too will pass. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. But let us do the necessary work today, because they're going to come and ask us why we didn't try to hold them back. Why we didn't try to hold them back. Sisters and brothers, politics are serious. It's life and death. In a country like this, life and D-E-A-T-H, and life and D-E-B-T, life and death and life and death. Death, as we would say, depth in the African and the village communities to make the difference. Life and death. D-E-A-T-H death and D-E-B-T death. Serious Serious, serious. Do what we can do. Please contribute to our election fund. The information is at the bottom of the screen. And I shall see you all tomorrow. I'm almost certain that I will see you all tomorrow for another edition of Politics 101. Stay good, stand firm, keep the flame burning, because we shall overcome. We must overcome.